Hey guys, my name is Stephanie Farron and I'm the Technology Facilitator at Butler High School, and this quick video tutorial is part 2 of the new Quizzes.Next in Canvas, and I'm going to show you how to build different question types in Canvas with the new Quizzes.Next. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is to go into my Canvas course that I want to set up my Quizzes.Next questions and quiz. We need to make sure that Quizzes.Next is turned on. So to do that, we'll go down to Settings in the left-hand menu, and then we'll click over in the tabs to Feature Options. If you'll scroll down Feature Options, you need to make sure that Quizzes.Next is toggled on. Right now, it's something we can turn on and off. Sometimes we have seen that Quizzes.Next can alter your averages and scores of quizzes, but just so you know, that's where you turn it on. Once you've turned it on, you'll go to Assignments. You find Quizzes.Next in Assignments. At the top of any assignments page is where you'll create new assignments, and now you'll see an additional button to create a new quiz or test. That is what you'll click. And you'll need to label your new Quizzes.Next assignment. Once you do that, you can assign point value. You can assign how you want it to display. The submission type by default is an external tool or LTI tool. You can assign it and hit a due date. I always hit save here and not save and publish. If you notice, you cannot start adding questions or anything to your mastery path yet. Once you hit save, you'll see this screen, and now you're at the page where you can build instructions for your quiz. So anytime you want to add instructions, you would simply click the pencil to add your instructions. And then done. Under Settings is where you would traditionally find the things that we used to have under that admin page, such as shuffling questions, selecting one question at a time, allowing a student access code, setting a time limit, and a reminder that setting the time limit is extremely important, because if you set a time limit and you find that students are not using their time wisely, or if they close their Chromebook and do not submit a quiz, setting a time limit forces the teacher, or allows that teacher to force the end of the quiz, whereas if not, it will go on in infinity. We cannot do IP filtering. We can allow multiple attempts. A new one in the multiple attempts is we can require a waiting period before they take an additional multiple attempt. This is great for remediation. And we can also restrict the student view so that students cannot see the questions they got incorrect until all students in the class finish the test, and you can change that at any time. Alright, so I'm going to turn a couple of these off, and I'm going to go back to my build page at the top of the screen so I can start adding my questions. On my build page, I can click the plus button at the bottom to add content, and it will bring up the content that I can add. So I'm going to focus on a couple new categories that have been added into Quizzes.Next that weren't in the traditional quizzes that you might be interested in. The first one I'm going to showcase is a hotspot. What a hotspot will let you do is create a visual image that students have to identify a location on. So for example, a map of the United States and tell me where a state is, or where is the mitochondria, if I can spell, in a plant cell or an animal cell. Okay, and you can drag and drop images. So let me go down and pull up my image. I think I have them in downloads. There we go. So once you have your image, you can choose where your hotspot will be. And if you notice, you have a question name and the hotspot, and you also have actually the question stem. So you need to make sure that you have both of them listed in case the image doesn't pop up. You can choose if the image is, the hotspot is a square, a circle, a pinpoint, and then you just kind of go in your image and you highlight what you want them to tag. And what you'll notice on your page, and it's kind of hard because of course the image I picked was blue and green and the box is blue, but there'll be a blue box around what you want to see. Now, whenever you're doing quizzes, Student View is going to be your friend, so you can see how the students see it. Those boxes do not show up in the quiz view for the students. It's you identifying what part of the picture you want them to identify. So it's a great tool. All right, in any of these questions, you can add an on-screen calculator, math teachers. Notice that they want you to do one question at a time if you're going to do a calculator, and you can choose a basic or a scientific one. For each question, you can align them to outcomes. I'm so sorry, but the outcomes do not pull from the original quizzes, so we'll need to import them one more time. But this will be great because you can go ahead and start managing those banks in new Quizzes.Next, and then eventually when Canvas parallels the two and merges them together, hopefully they'll realign. And you can also create item banks just like you did in the original quizzes, but you can do it right from each individual item. So go ahead and start that now if you're a teacher that likes multiple test items to go into your quizzes. And you can change the point value, and then this little button provides feedback to your students based on whether or not they get the question right or wrong if you choose to do that. So that is an example of a hotspot. Let's look at categorization. So categorization will allow students to manipulate objects to put them in different categories. So maybe I want them to tell me what is the difference between Washington and Jefferson. I'm sorry, I always go to history as my backup. And then I'm going to copy this again into my queue, so in case the items do not load correctly, the students will see it. My category 1 would then be Washington and Jefferson. And then my answers are the things I put below. You can also add distractors that would not fit at all. So Jefferson wanted smaller government. He was against a national bank. He was for states' rights. So Washington wanted a strong federal government. He wanted a post office, and so on and so forth. We can add some distractors that didn't fit into any category. The U.S. Constitution, because that already had been done. And again, you can change the points. I would obviously change them based on the ones they have to choose, so that way they can, it might come out a little better in the wash if they get 1 right and 3 wrong. And then done. And that adds that question. And so these will be manipulatives the students can manipulate into the correct category. So that's categorization. Let's do some ordering. So ordering will allow students to put things in a chronological order. So maybe we want them to tell us which events happened first, or put the events in order of World War II. Place the following events in order of when they occurred. This might be good for sequencing in a book, what happened first, second, last. Maybe a scientific method, what would you do first, second, last. You can label the top and bottom if you need to. So maybe I would label it 1939 because World War II started in 1939 and it ended in 1945. And I can put a few things in there like Hitler was elected in Germany. The atom bomb was dropped in Hiroshima. And then if I want one in between, maybe I make a mistake and I'm like, oh, I want to put Victory in Europe Day. If that is one that would go before the atom bomb, then I could simply just drag and drop and put it in the correct chronological order. When the students see it, they will be mixed up. They'll be correct when they put them in the correct order. So again, I can choose to have the labels on and off. I can turn them off. We can put the answers in a paragraph, and they have to put the paragraph in order. So maybe we want them to make the most sense of a research paper. Where would the thesis go versus the 3 examples that would break down in the paragraphs? So there's some really higher level fun things you could do with this question and points. And then finally, the last one I want to showcase for you guys is a stimulus question. So a lot of times when we are doing questions, we always have a reading passage and then they have to answer questions. And sometimes that reading passage is at the top of the page and the question's at the bottom of the page, or you have to repeat it and that kind of thing. So the stimulus will actually put the items side by side and multiple questions together. So let me try that one more time. Click stimulus. All right. When I'm doing I have an extra question there, so I need to delete that. That's what I needed to do. Again, it's very intuitive. So my title for my stimulus could be anything, and my stimulus could literally be anything. It could be a video. It could be an image. It could be a reading passage. It could be a link to another assignment. But it's literally going to pop up beside the questions I want my students to answer. So, for example, I could see this is Spanish class where they record an audio recording, and the students then have to answer the questions based on the audio recording that is in the stimulus. If in my example before, I use a primary document that the students had to read and then answer questions, or a reading passage. So all of these will work. You can insert both URL for a media. You can insert both audio and video. You can drag and drop it or put it straight in. So the stimulus is great. You also, for your uses, you can add the URL the students don't see, so that way if the item changes or you need to revert back to your original idea, you can see where you got your material from. And you can item bank items to the stimulus, so maybe you have 5 different questions that would go with the same stimulus, and then the kids can all get different questions. So when you're finished, you click add your stimulus, and then it will allow you to attach the question to your stimulus. So you can attach any of these types of questions to the stimulus. So maybe I want the students to listen to the Spanish recording and then fill in the blank of the next question. So then I would click a fill in the blank question. Or maybe I want them to answer it and then match what are the correct answers from the reading. So you can add things to the stimulus and then add multiple questions to it. So for example, fill in the blank, what did the recording say? And again, I'm going to copy this and post it below just so I have it in both places. And then I can add the answer to my statement. Make sure if you're doing that, you have added a blank in there. So in order to type, press enter to create a new blank. Okay, and then the answer to the statement was food. Okay, and then you'll hit done. Okay, and you've got to have a blank in there to make it work. So mine is going to give a little problems here. But that's how you can do fill in the blanks. Okay, I'm going to trash this question and put another one in. But there's all different kinds, and you can do multiple questions to this one. So I could have multiple choice questions. What is the answer? And then multiple choice questions, and then I can add another question and put it in. Okay. And then trash these others so it would actually let me move on. Okay, and then come down, hit done, attach a question, and then I can attach another question. So literally here, I can attach multiple questions to my stimulus for an answer. So these are just 4 new types of QuizzesNext. There's a bunch of old ones in there as well that I want you to take a look at, but I wanted to showcase these for you. So good luck building some QuizzesNext. Again, when you're done, you'll hit return to return back to your class. And if you wanted to test any of these out, the best thing to do is to go into settings and go to student view and then pull up your QuizzesNext quiz and actually take it as a student. If you notice at the bottom of the button, you have the reset feature. So you can no longer reset them. So each time you'll hit reset and you'll be allowed to take it again as the same test student to see how it runs. So this is my QuizzesNext that I had made to show you as an example to begin with because I forgot to publish this one. So you can see how it rolls. Okay? So good luck and happy QuizzesNext.